Thank you very much for having me. This should be fun. I'm gonna spend some time talking a little bit about IBM. A little bit about what we're doing on the platform, a little bit about what I'm doing. But first off, who am I and why am I here? So I'm an STSM out of the IBM Development Lab. I'm out of Rochester, Minnesota. That's where I live. That's where my teams work on them. I have a worldwide team though, because I have people from all over the place. So just a little bit more about needs before we dive into the other stuff going on here. First up, okay, wife, 4 kids, my daughter and wife work at Mayo Clinic. They do health saving things. And then there's the other part of the family, the crazies. We have several. So we have several that like to go climb rocks and do crazy things. They live in, they moved from Rochester, now they live in Denver because it's closer to rocks. And then it gets worse because the crazies, they like to do things like, yeah, American Ninja Warrior. So, and on national TV, I'm the idiot standing on the sideline waving at my kids who have been on multiple times. So anyways, it's a little bit about the crazies in my life, a little bit of high energy going on in my family. Happens. So, on to the topic at hand, So we've been around now for how many years? 36 as a platform. We existed prior to that, obviously, in previous incantations like System 36 and System 38. You can probably trace our roots prior to that with some other 34s, 32s, but nonetheless, our existing support started 36 plus years ago. We're still here. Hard to believe sometimes, but part of why we're still here, actually, I know why we're still here. It's that continuous innovation. We've not stopped adding new stuff to the platform. We've not stopped allowing you to do new things. Continually moving the needle forward, being able to leverage the technology of today. But here's the difference, without breaking the stuff that you've been running since the beginning of time. A different model than many of the other platforms in the world today. So we have been this continual innovation, continual integration. So when we talk about IBMI just for a minute, gotta talk about the business. People ask, right? IBMI dead. You know, the first time we were announced dead, 97 by Gartner. Yeah, they're still wrong. Nonetheless, we're still around. We are selling in 115 countries. It would be higher. The government refuses to allow us to sell in certain other countries for political reasons. But nonetheless, we are in a whole wide realm of industries. Think of the industry, we're probably a big part of that, depending on where you're at in the world. From a business perspective, IBMI is actually kicking butt, taking names recently. We've been doing very well from a business perspective. We've actually had over 10 quarters of growth, which in the world today, you're like, oh, so that whole thing? Yeah, well, why? Because all the new stuff that you can do with it, and the fact that it just plain runs businesses. So we've been really excited about what's going on from a business perspective. IBM is happy with us, right? Whenever somebody gives IBM money, they're like, woo, yay. So they've been offering us help recently. Sometimes I find that scary, but nonetheless, when big IBM comes along and says, we will help you, you never know what you're gonna get. So part of the other reason we're doing well, it's not just a great operating system and what you can do with it, it's also the power platform. Back in 1995, is when we started this transition onto the power architecture. And it's been an architecture that's worked incredibly well for us for a long time. We are currently sitting at Power 10 as our most recent incantation. And if you kind of look at the numbers at the bottom as to what power processor we're on and the years in between, you can probably do a little bit of math and figure out when the next chip will come along. You probably even be able to tell me what the actual name of the next chip is going to be. So great news is we have an incredible state-of-the-art platform from a hardware and processing perspective that we get to run on. And the thing that's really cool about this power processor, it's designed specifically for this. It's designed for dealing with data, dealing with it quite well. So those are some of the things that really has helped and kind of kept the IBM alive and quite well, is that we have this great platform that we've been able to run on from a hardware perspective. All right, enough about hardware. I'm not a hardware guy. That's as much hardware as I get to do. I get to talk about software. I'm an architect, so I am part of the architecture team. So this is kind of good news for me. You know, when people ask, is IBM alive and well? Well, if you're architecting things, that sort of implies you're building new things. And I'm not just one architect, I'm part of a team of architects, which means that we're building lots of new things. That's a good sign. It means we're continuing to invest in the platform, we're continuing to move it forward, we're continuing to try to meet the needs of our customers along the way. What are the things that we care about? Well, I've already talked about power, so that's important. Being able to leverage some of the technologies that's built into that power processor so that you and your applications can take advantage of it. Well, those are some of the different things we're talking. We've been on this journey of open since about 2008 when we really started pushing on it. Being able to leverage open technologies seamlessly and integrated with your existing technologies. Being able to do all sorts of new things. If you can imagine it, you can probably do it. And then, you know, the last one is the integrated promise of IBM. And this is the one area that's a little bit different than maybe what other platforms might be doing. And this is that whole, we try to provide in the operating system everything you need to run your business, as well as being able to ensure that all the stuff that you've been doing for the last X number of years continue to run unchanged. Yet give you a path to go forward and integrate with new things. So that's one of the big things that we continue to provide for you, that simple platform for your business applications. And of course, as I go through this, if you got a question, interrupt me. I can go sit in my room back home and talk to myself all day long. So it's fun to make it as interactive as possible. So please, if you have a question, ask. Let's talk about our roadmap for a minute. We're on 7.5 currently. That's our most recent operating system level. And again, if you look at the dates and you do math, elementary math here, we're not talking anything complex, you probably figure out when the next release will be coming out. And you'll probably be able to figure out what the next release will be called, because it logically flows there. So these are currently today. If you look at where we're at from a support perspective, one of the things that we have done on IBM is we publish a 10-year support roadmap. So people ask, which means that, you know, if I look at my IBM 7.5, you know, it came out in 2022, and we have published that it'll have a 10-year supported roadmap, which means that 7.5 will be good through, you know, sometime out in the 2030s timeframe. When we come up with the next release, it'll still have that, which will, you know, put us out, yeah, into the mid 2030s. And this is a public document that you can go find. Countless people ask, are you going away soon? Yeah, no, definitely not. We're still delivering new releases. We still are adding new content. So we have this published roadmap. People also ask, well, why only 10 years? We had to pick a random number somewhere, and that's what IBM Legal said we could do. So that's what we're doing. I thought we were doing pretty good to get 10 years out of it, right? You know how lawyers like to date. All right, so that's kind of our roadmap. You can see from that perspective, right? 7.2, it's out of extended support. So that one's no longer supported. 7.3 will be heading that way in a short period of time. Since we tend to have two fully supported releases in the operating out in the field at a time. On this case, we'll have 3 here coming up pretty soon, so it'll be time for one of them to drop off. Okay, make sense? Okay. As architects, I've talked about some of the high-level things that we tend to focus on. Let's dive into some of the details. What are the areas that, as architects and as our development team, what are we working on? Well, first off, we got to work on cloud, right? Not everybody wants to have a machine in their building anymore. They don't want to necessarily be in the business of IT. Okay, great. So we have offerings for IBM in the cloud. We may also, and our businesses may also have what we call hybrid applications, where part of our business might be on-prem, part of our business might be in cloud solutions. So how do we intermarry those together and have a hybrid solution? Right? Those are the things that my team spends quite a bit of time, and we'll talk more about that as we go on here. Availability. IBM is known as one of the more reliable machines in the industry. I'll tell you countless stories of the machine just runs, it runs and runs. But nonetheless, we have a number of businesses that are no longer able to deal with downtime. So how do we deal with availability? So we'll talk about continuous availability here in a minute as well. Security. IBM is certainly one of the most securable platforms in the industry, but the only other platform that can claim the same levels of security would be something in the orders of Z. We've got a proven track record, but guess what? It ain't good enough. Why? Because the world of the evil people like to keep finding new ways to do things, which means that we need to continue to enhance our posture of security on this platform. So we spend lots of time talking about security and implementing security within our platform to ensure that your businesses stay secure, make sure your data stays secure, assuming you do your part, which is secure, right? Database. Are we an operating system with an integrated database, or are we a database with an integrated operating system? Great question. But database is the lifeblood of our platform, the lifeblood of our applications. So we continue to enhance, add all sorts of things to our database. What we talked about for the title of this particular event, AI. This has become a significant portion of what we are doing right now on our platform with our development teams. We've got all sorts of fun projects going on from the world of AI. We have customers that are leveraging and using AI today in real life situations, and we'll kind of talk about those a little bit. And the last area that I spend a lot of my time in is the whole concept of modern development. What is it? How do we help our customers be able to move forward into the future, being able to use the tools of today and the ecosystems and methodologies of today? So those are the areas that we spend a lot of our time as architects and our development team working on, being able to ensure that we have these support and these solutions to be able to have a vibrant platform. Okay, let's start with the world of AI. Kind of talk a little bit about what we're doing in this particular space. So first off, I'm going to start with something that you already own. If you're on 7.4 higher, then you have this already. So the world of Watson, IBM that's been one of our brands for the AI support for quite some time. We got together with our friends over at Watson, and we've actually taken some of the geospatial support that they've created in our research lab, and we integrated it into the IBM DB2 database. So what is this geospatial stuff? I like to talk about it as the power of where. Being able to ask questions, where are my customers? I can't read them as they come up behind my head, so I gotta go, where are our stores, assets located, containers, trucks, offices? Where do we advertise? Do we have risks when it comes to weather, historical or in the future or currently? And my favorite, where are my cows? So we have got a food processing company. They geotag every one of their cows. They know where every one of their cows is. It's all connected to their IBM DB2 database. And they're using this geospatial libraries that we have built into the operating system to be able to understand those relationships of where the cows are and how healthy they are and how much did they produce as part of that process. So this is kind of the cool part, is if you've been using any kind of geospatial support, right? You may have been doing it outside of the world of IBM specifically. There's services that you can do. Well, the good news is now you own it. If you've got any type of address data sitting in your databases, you're a candidate to start asking questions on how can I leverage that address data to answer questions from a geospatial perspective. And you own all the built-in functions that allow you to go off and do that yourself. Yeah, I know that might be asking a lot. There's a lot trying to go figure out. Well, the good news is certainly solution providers that have built stuff around this and can also help with that. So this is kind of an exciting piece of software. This got delivered, almost 2.5, 3 years ago now. So it's not even been yesterday. It's been a while, which means that we've got a lot of customers that are doing stuff with it. We've got some information out there. There's a book on it. There's some links that you can use to learn more about how to get started with this if you're interested in playing with this geospatial support today. Okay. Let's talk about the future. Because in the world of the future, right, this is, all the world of AI that's happening today. And from our perspective, this largely fits into 3 categories. So we've been looking at data analytics, being able to, again, how do we take the data that's you have? I mean, if you have businesses, if you're running on IBM, you have database, so you have data. You have lots of data in some cases. We got customers that have terabytes of data. If they could take that data and start doing trend analysis, right, anomaly detection on the data, they might be able to understand what's going on better with their business, be able to predict things better, be able to help your customers have a better experience. So this is a big area that we've been spending and focusing on. And I'll touch on some of the things that we're doing to help with the connections on making that possible. Operations. We've got customers that have 1 to 500 machines. They want to automate as much as possible the maintenance and operations of those systems. So AI operations, being able to monitor, detect, and let's self-heal. Why not? And that's some of the areas that we're working on as well. And then the last area that we're spending quite a bit of time on is this concept of the developer experience. Being able to help our developer community write and understand the code. That's it. How do you go about doing it? So we'll talk a little bit more about that and what we're doing specifically in our development from the IBM development team in each of these areas. Start the data analytics piece. Here's some examples of what's being done today. So this is coming from one of our business partners that are actually implementing and helping companies leverage AI within their customer set. And it's a wide range of different industries: healthcare, finance, retail, manufacturing, go through the list. It's covered all of them. And it gives them some examples of actual applications that AI has been applied to help these different industries become better. Whether it's healthcare, we've heard lots of that in my world. I hear about it a lot. I live in Rochester. There's two large companies that live in Rochester, Minnesota. One of them's IBM, the other's Mayo Clinic. And like I said, several of my family work at Mayo Clinic, so hear about healthcare a lot in my house. How do you help healthcare providers do better diagnosis? Right? And there's lots of different things that go into that. We have numerous ISVs that work in the healthcare industry and run their businesses. You'd be surprised how many hospitals in this country actually run their hospital on our platform. Might not have known that, but it's true. AI is becoming a big part of that. Financial. There's probably not a single financial transaction in the world today that you can run that won't hit an IBMI at some point during its flow. So we're still huge within that. Manufacturing, there's lots of different options when it comes to these AI technologies. All right. I said I wasn't going to go back to hardware or talk about hardware. I sort of lied. I have one more hardware slide. I want to talk about the Power 10 chip specifically because there's things that were built into the Power 10 chip that makes inferencing and whatnot from an AI perspective rather interesting. In the Power 10 processor, this is an actual picture of the little silicon. It's not that big. It's actually probably about the size of my pinky nail or maybe slightly smaller. So it's a pretty small processor chip these days, but there's a lot of stuff in that. So first off, these little green dots that I just flew in. Matrix math accelerators, MMAs. There's 4 of them per core. And there can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 16 cores on a single chip. Right? So there's also these concepts of this SIM, single instruction manipulate data. So it allows you to get more data to the chip, the process faster. Right? The chip can run and do all sorts of things only if it has the data needed to process. If it doesn't have data, guess what it's doing? Nothing. It's waiting. So that's a big part of the Power 10 chips. And then why Power family progression is being able to get the data so that you can run more stuff faster. So it's all the different data buses that go with it. So the thing about the Power 10 chip, which is interesting, is it's got a lot of support built into it already to help with a number of different AI solutions. Maybe not many different AI solutions. And here's the best part. If you have a Power 10 that you're running your IBMI on, you probably have cores that aren't being used for anything. Because many of our customers don't necessarily run all the cores that are actually available. Guess what you can do with the other cores? Start thinking about some AI solutions, technologies, being able to incorporate AI and leveraging the power of what you already own sitting right in your boxes. So here's just a simple example. This is an example you can actually go look at. There's a link out here that some of our solution providers from IBM put together. It's actually taking something called Stock Trader program, and it's this day trader, sorry. It's an application that runs in a Java web container, Liberty, and it's actually going out and runs a stock exchange, is really what its purpose of the application. And they actually took part of that flow and they put in some triggers and they leveraged some stuff like Camel and Kafka, which in fact all run on IBMI nicely. And integrated into the stream of the database updates, some ability to go off to a separate Linux partition running on the power to do some inferencing. It does, and being able to do basically predictions of what the stock could end up being by learning and training and some of the AI technologies that are there. So this is a simple real life example from something that you can actually dive into and look at what, it's something that you could probably even set up in your own if you wanted to go play with. So this is just a simple example that we have available today. Some of the other things that we've done is being able to embed AI into the actual database transactions themselves, right? If I have a database transaction that I want to do some work with, how do I get that database transaction to some AI engine? This is this hybrid approach that we're talking about. It's not that I need to have every AI engine run on I. There's lots of good AI engines that run on Linux and other things, so let's take advantage of those. But if we're going to do that, just like the power processor, they need to get access to what? Right? The data. How do we help with that? Whether that's with architectures like Camel or data queues or other things, some of the more practical stuff that we've done, so we've actually built some SQL services. We've written some procedures that allow you to leverage this Watson X AI, being able to call out to Watson AI directly from a DB2 transaction. So these are some of the things that you shipped within the last database PTF groups, and probably have these on your boxes, whether you do it or not. One of the other things that recently came out, this is currently sitting in beta, is something called MAPA-P. You're like, what the heck is that? I say the same thing. First off, you got to understand the world of open source. In the world of open source, if they can't come up with a really weird name, well, why bother? So this is, in fact, yes, really weird name. And the best part is, when they came up with the name, they actually came up and used AI to generate the icon as well. They have there, so kind of a fun little project for the development team. On IBM, we've had ODBC, we've had JDBC to be able to access the database. Probably all heard about them. They work fine, but they don't work fine enough. So one of the things the team actually has decided is that we're going to be able to get data out of our DB2 databases and get it out into these AI engines. We need to be able to do it faster. We need to be able to do it easier. That's what this project is all about. We've got multiple different clients today. We've got a client written for Node, Python, and Java. We soon will have ones for C# and PHP, so that you can leverage and access the DB2 data in a very high-speed, secure manner. So that's what this project. So this is one of the pieces of the puzzles that our team has been heads down working, be able to help our customers be able to incorporate AI. Right, because part of the thing that you need to think about, right? I mean, there's lots of different AI engines to go off and do these inferencing and the predictions and all this stuff, right? That's all well and fine. It's good. But how do you make the connections? And so that's what a lot of our team works on, is what are the connections that we need to make so that we can do those connections, so we can get the data to where it needs to be. So a few different real life examples that are actually out working today. In the banking industry, we have a bank over in Belgium. They have been leveraging, and they've been doing this now for about 3 years, AI as part of their fraud detection support. So in all their transactions, they've got AI that is involved with fraud. For years, they had people that had to go look at the transactions. If something got, and they had static things that would flag, and people had to go look to say, well, is that fraud or is it not fraud? Well, so now they can actually start to look at what are your banking behaviors. Is this within the umbrella of what they consider your normal banking behaviors? Okay, then it's probably not fraud. Is it an amount that is within your normal banking behaviors? If it is, okay, great. If that's not any of those things, maybe we should then start the process of looking at it and see if it is fraud. One of my favorites, the food processing folks in Ireland, they track their cows. I think this is just amazing. Geo-trackers on their cows. They can understand what fields the cows were in, how much milk they were producing, what's the quality of their milk based on the quality of the fields that they're in, and how much water did they get, pull all that stuff together. Hopefully, to one, make certain that the cows have a better life, as well as being able to produce and provide more milk in this case. Chemical manufacturing. I didn't know this, but part of the chemical manufacturing process is very dependent upon temperatures. So depending on the temperatures, you can actually then just control how much of this, that, or the other thing gets mixed into the ingredient pot. Using AI and sensors to help determine that, so that they have a more consistent product at the end of the day. And then one of my favorites, one of the areas that I didn't talk about when it comes to me and my family, is football. No, not American football, the European version. So I'm actually, when I'm not doing this IBM thing, I'm actually spending my time out on the soccer pitch as a soccer official. So I get to go run around a lot. And that's actually my son, my 19-year-old kid. He and I do this together. He's also an up-and-coming soccer official. Someday he's hoping to maybe make it to the FIFA range, but that's a long way and a lot of hard work. Why did I put soccer up here? So one of our friends over in Belgium, they are actually, and this is one of the coolest things, completely 100% IBM. They're taking geo-tracking data from the players as they move about the field, as well as video data, and digesting it down, and they're using AI to help understand player movement and player behavior. If a player A makes a pass, how often do they complete their pass? They can try to then determine which are going to be the best players to play together based on each of the players' behavior to help, one, improve the team, as well as improve fitness and the safety and health of the players themselves. And this is actually live and in production today with numerous club programs throughout Europe. And it's also part of the Belgian national team. That's something that they're actually doing as well. It's kind of one, it's a fun AI use case, and it also it's fun for me because that's one of my areas of great interest. Okay, questions? Switching gears, AI operations. So IBM has got a product that we bought a few years ago, this thing called Instana. Instana is a great tool to help with monitoring and alerting your IT infrastructure. It's all about observability. Well, what the Instana team has done is they get lots and lots of metrics that are part of the monitoring component. The other piece that they have is this ability to fix things by calling Ansible handbooks to automate the process of doing corrections. That can be part of the alerting support. So how does the AI come into play? Well, based on what is monitored and what is found as part of the alerting component, they can use AI to determine which is the best Ansible playbook to correct the problem that might have been just identified. The whole process of monitor, alert, correct, self-healing. Still in its early stages, but there's some some fun stuff that's happening from this perspective. And then last, our development code assistance support. This is something that is probably probably the most near and dear to me and most of my team, is what are we doing to help our developers? One of my roles is the architect of application development. So I've been working with our developers worldwide for numbers of years. And one of the things that we hear a lot about, need to understand the code. I need to write better code. Well, so that's one of the big things that we're currently heads down working on. So we are currently working with numerous RPG IBM champions from around the world, asking them to, one, give us their RPG so that we can train a large language model to truly understand RPG and understand it correctly. There's lots of language models today that can give you some support within an RPG. Some of them are better than others, but none of them truly understand RPG at the depth that we need them to understand, that our normal developer, somebody who's been programming for 30 years, might understand. Right? So how do we help them bring that understanding to everybody, to new people? So this is one of the big things that we're working on. We've got some examples that we have up here just for the heck of it. Right? You know, I can highlight a section of code and I can say, okay, explain it to me. And you know, and in actual real English, it'll go off and tell you what that code is. I mean, this is stuff that's actually working today, and for basic things, it does just fine. Additional things where I can ask, you know, my code base, how are the modules quantized, right? And it'll go off and again give me some verbiage and tell me about the code base itself. We'll look at it from a higher level perspective. You know, we also have some support here that can say, okay, we need a procedure. I want to write a procedure to compute the Fibonacci sequence. And here it goes. It wrote some modern freeform RPG code. And it even works. You know, that's always that's a plus, right? And somebody writes code and it actually works. So you know, we're making good progress on these. We also have here's a chunk of code. Please explain it to me. Again, giving me text and verbiage. Now, this is important because within our RPG community and our COBOL communities on IBM, right, those languages maybe have been around a long time. And certainly for the RPG language, when it first was incantated back in the 70s or whenever it was, what was the input device for a programming language back then?
Punch card.
Yeah, punch card.
Usually.
Oh Lord, we don't do those anymore. But unfortunately, RPG was afflicted by the punch card. And so stylistically, the language was created for the purpose of being entered on a punch card. Well, about 15 years ago, we took that and removed that as a requirement, and we've stylistically changed the language to make it modern. Right? Make it readable by normal human beings. But now we have this old code, new code. Lots of old code because we never moved it to new code. How do we help people understand what that old code does, and how do we help them move forward to modern RPG? Right? Those are some of the things that we are actively heads down. So
you're having much luck with RPG too?
So, question, are we having much luck with RPG too? So we are getting RPG 2. So I think I have that coming up. There we go. I can put it on a slide for you. So we are working with our customers who have RPG 2, RPG Fifth System 36. This is the thing that kind of blows my mind away. You'd be amazed at how much money actually still runs on RPG System 36. That's crazy. And that's from what, the early 80s? And you realize that System 36 RPG code runs unchanged, great, on 7.5 on Power 10. Is that good or is that bad? you decide, it's good and bad, but part of what this large language model that we're trying to help build, these tools that we're trying to build, is understand what that code really is doing, such that we can potentially transform it into modern RPG. Transform it to ILE modern RPG. Because once you've moved into a modern RPG, now it's modern. Anybody from college can come in and understand about 80% of the code with zero training. Being able to allow us to be successful well into the future. So those are some of the things that we're focused on, right? We're focused on helping us get from fixed format to free format. Being able to understand the code, get us to modern RPG. Being able to maybe convert code from this older RPG into more futuristic modern stuff today. So those are some of the problems that we're working on tackling, and these are the large language models, the stuff that we're working on. We've got experts from around the world that have this type of code, and they're actually saying to IBM, yep, you can use our code to help your language model learn. And we will also provide you with the experts that understand, so that you can see whether or not the language model is giving you the right values and continue the teaching process for this. So hopefully, within the next, I'm not certain how long, we'll be able to have, these true RPG, large language model that be able to be leveraged by numerous different tools. I mean, the stuff I showed you in these videos here, this is our existing VS Code, Code Fry support tied into the language models that we have working today. So this is actually real live code that's being worked on today. All VS Code base. Okay, questions? All right, I'm gonna switch gears for just a little bit. Yes, question, please.
How reliable is it to extract some rules from the RPG code?
How reliable is it to extract the business rules from the RPG code? That is also one of the areas that we're looking at and focused on. There's tools today that do a pretty good job with sure of that, but we want to make them better. Being able to take your embedded business logic, pull them into service programs or other forms, within a modern RPG program. So very doable. We've had some success with that already. More to come.
I'll take that question one step further. Would there be a method of using that technique to convert it into a C8 Plex or CA2E language, which is what this conference is about, as opposed to going to natural language?
Good question. So the question is, can we take that and convert it into one of the 2E Plex languages? We've not done anything in that space today. Our whole focus from our perspective is really all about getting our RPG community to modern RPG. Being able to write RPG that you can hire some kid off the street that has relatively decent programming skills and come in and continue to support it. That's been our current goal. This to be this community. And so that's where the majority of our community is. What you suggest, is it possible? Can't see why it couldn't be possible.
You're halfway there, because you converted it to a natural language.
Yeah.
In the
So the RPG that's generated by the 2E sign so support, certainly we can take that RPG and explain what it's doing. Okay. Yeah, question.
I actually have a comment rather than a question. The rest of the first question from here. My experience with automated business model extraction has an interesting characteristics. Most important of which are the formal complexity of the code. When you're dealing with low to moderate complexity code, these kind of tools will do a great job.
So the tools that you work with today are largely static analysis tools.
That is also
That, and I would totally agree with you. on the success rate. With static analysis, it gives you a good starting point.
Yeah.
But with the AI component thrown in, you have the potential ability to get one step better. And that's what we're trying to accomplish
Yeah.
with this understanding. We can get an AI model that truly understands our RPG code with our static analysis.
Offline, you and I can talk about the patent I have on dynamic business rule extraction. But, the second half of that point is that 95% of your rules fall into that, relatively speaking, not very complex. And maybe maybe as little as 2% of the code falls into, high or extremely high complexity. And I have cases where getting that last 5% took 90% of the effort, doing it all manually, by the way, not.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where we're hoping AI can kind of help. So, all right, very good. I want to switch gears and talk about a few other aspects of our, yes, question.
Yeah, so, and then we can be out, if you want to not other benefits of the food, or the
So can you use it? The extension in VS Code is available today. You can hook into several different things. I know you can hook into Copilot, for example, and it'll give you answers. How good are those answers? That's the question. That's the problem. That's one of the reasons that we're working on building our own large language model. Because who better to understand the world of RPG than our RPG family? And that's what we're currently working on doing. So that you can hook into a Watson X, for example, large language model, to be able to exactly do what we're doing here. Because this is basically what we've done as examples, just using existing extensions.
So the LLM, is that hosted on your site or is that something downloaded in one local?
Great question. Where is the LLM hosted? Yes, to be determined. We'd like to have one that is hostable so that you can just access it and use it. But some people can't do that. Some people have to have it local. That's what you want to do. Well, then we should be able to provide that too. So these are some of the bigger picture things that we're struggling and working through today. So, yeah. Okay, other questions? This is great, thank you. Attendance to actually anything else? This side, this side. Okay, so I'm gonna switch gears for a minute. I want to talk a little bit about some other technologies. I want to talk about availability for a minute. So I've got a number of companies. You know, one of my favorites is, you know, some companies say they're 24/7, which means they don't have any downtime windows. I've got one company, Skype. No, we're not 24/7. We're 27/8. Which means that they have so little downtime, they really truly don't ever get an opportunity for downtime. So how do we have continuous availability? What is your tolerance, your true tolerance for downtime? This is one of those questions that a lot of companies go, no big deal, until they have downtime. And then they realize maybe it is a big deal. So back in 7.4, we released a product called DB2 Mirror. DB2 Mirror is a solution for two-node continuous database availability. We created it because we have lots of companies that said they cannot afford the downtime. So we have this two-node cluster for our database. You can have them approximately 10 kilometers apart, and it does synchronous database transactions. It doesn't use journals, it doesn't use hardware replication. When I go to write to a database, we write to the other node at the same time. A true synchronous database replication, so that I have two identical copies of my data at all times available. Kind of a cool process. This also means now that we've moved from 7.4 to 7.5 and soon to 7, whatever the next number might end up being comes after 5, you can do rolling upgrades. You can do rolling PTF upgrades. You can do rolling release upgrades. Upgrades with no downtime. Could be interesting.
So if there is a hardware failure, how do you know which one's now got the correct data?
The one that's up, it's got the correct data, because they are synchronous.
But if there's just a memory glitch on one of them,
So if there's a memory glitch, the other one probably went down. So therefore, we have one system that becomes the master, we track all the transactions, and then we synchronize the two together, so that they're together. Yeah. Just to kind of give you an idea, a little fun little active thing. I've got a database record. I'm gonna write Fred into this database on node 1. When it's synchronous, it basically means that we are going to write to both sides. So the transaction won't be complete until both database tables get updated together. Which is why there's that 10K thing. You know, when you start getting over 10K, even if we're running on a high-speed connection, you get too much latency. And again, since it's active, you can write on both sides. I could write stuff on node 2. So I'm gonna put Scott. I would like to give Scott, my buddy, a hard time, tell him he's old, he's 63. Actually, he's younger than me, but that's okay. I still put him in old. So you can write on one side, it'll write to the other. So this is nice because as you have applications, right? If you run with some kind of a load balancer on the front, you can have your workloads running in the load balancer. They can run on either side. If one node goes down for some reason, the other node becomes active. And then it starts tracking all the transactions. And all the new stuff goes into the one node. Eventually, when you fix the problem on the down node, we will do a sync. And we'll send all the change records from one side to the other, get them all happy and the same, and you're set up. This support that's available today was actually rather funny. We delivered it in 7.4. And in the first year and a half, we sold exactly 0 copies. How fast our IBM community likes to move? Glacier speed. But it took that one customer an outage, a hardware outage, their disk units went down on one node, and they went, oh, yeah. We now have lots of people that are running DB2ER. We've had an incredibly fast up ramp over the last 3 to 4 years. We have POCs running continually and people going into production on a regular basis. Does it support? Yes, sir.
So when in, like, let's say first machine goes down, second machine starts synchronization, once first machine is back up, what's the process of resynchronizing one from two?
So we actually do a synchronization, we have a synchronization process that we wrote where we will take the database transactions and we're
Because there's mark each transaction as the thing.
we track each transaction. We're not using journaling or anything else. We're not replaying journaling. We're actually taking and we will gather up and replay the transactions that happened in the database.
In the second order as well, like.
As if needed, yes. It just depends. We actually have smarts built in because sometimes you don't need to play the one, sometimes you just need to play the last one. So we try to be smart about it. We have multiple success stories, people out there doing it today. With, small companies, big companies, financials, doing this today. You can actually go out and watch a couple videos on it if you want to learn more about this product, or you can come talk to me. Okay. Last area that I want to spend the last couple minutes, I want to talk about modern development for a little bit. An area that's near and dear to my heart. We have people that have been doing development the same way since 1984. But in the world today, development is done in a very different manner. And there's no reason that that new development paradigm can't be done on IBM. So a little bit about our past, right? We started in '88. We were this 8-bit processor. We were monolithic RPG COBOL code. We were very much punch card driven. In the mid 2000s and late 90s, we had a handful of different names. This was the I'm going to change my name every 16 months time frame. We were System I and I5 and I series, I think with other things. Some core fundamental things that we added in here, we added the SQL engine, we added ILE, we added PACE. We started to add the hybrid application concepts with Java, some of the WebSphere type components. That was a core fundamental transition period for us. 2008, that's when we renamed to the worst name we could think of, IBM. People also ask me, why don't you rename it? Because look at our track record. We only seem to get worse. I guarantee you, we would make it worse. So let's just leave it alone. Yes, IBM doesn't name things very well. I'm well aware of that. We have been on this roadmap of leveraging open technologies since 2008, moving things forward, being able to write and leverage code in a modern way. What does that look like? Well, it looks like a couple different things. First off, RPG is very much a modern business language. It's also a very green language. When you think about the whole world of green technologies, people want everything to be green. Well, if you compare RPG to virtually, not green screen and green. He holds up his laptop, green screen. I mean, that was good. It was good. Compiled RPG runs incredibly fast with very little resources compared to many other languages that are out in the industry today. And it's pretty significant on how fast it runs. With modern RPG, we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. Talk about source control. Where do people put their source today? Many people are still doing source control, again, using source physical file, check in, check outs. What's wrong with Git and branching? Very much part of the equation today. What is your developer IDE? VS Code, it's the de facto standard in the world today. We've got great support today built in for RPG, COBOL, and whatnot, built into the pipelines, automation, web interfaces, being able to leverage new talent. So these are some of the areas that many of my customers ask me about on a very regular basis. So how do we continue to move forward, for the next 36 years? We needed to provide an opportunity for change. We don't force it. This is the beauty of the IBM. We provide all of these new opportunities, but yet the stuff that's been going on for years, we'll continue to support. Well, now people ask me, when are you going to stop supporting System 36? Never. That's the easy answer, the short answer. So RPG, this is one of the things that we did. We reinvented the whole language itself. We removed the stylistic limitations of the punch card. The cool thing is, if you have a fixed form program and a free form program, if you compile them, the bytecodes created, they're the same. All we've done is we've changed the human readable interface, not the underlying computer readable interface. We've made the language such that it's readable by normal human beings. And we tried to style it after many other normal languages of the world. The Java, the C, the PHP, a lot of similarities from its stylistic perspective. People ask, do we still invest in RPG? Yes. We showed you that roadmap of our releases, 7.3, 7.4, 7.5. Every 6 months, we also deliver a technology refresh. Not a single technology refresh has gone by since 7.1 that we haven't delivered a new feature in the RPG compiler. Every single 6 months, something new has been added to the RPG compiler. Matter of fact, if you go out to the RPG Cafe, we'll active link there at the bottom. Barbara just put out the latest enhancements. They just went live yesterday. So there's new enhancements that are coming out in the TR that just got announced last week. So when did that happen? It happened recently. New enhancements to the RPG compiler. One of the other cool things about our platform is this integrated SQL stuff. SQL is a modern language. We allow you to embed it natively right into your RPG, right into your COBOL, whether it's for data access or for other things. So because we're an integrated system, one of the things that we have done is we've gone out and we've created what we call IBM SQL services. We've got 367 of them, Scott told me just 2 days ago, that exist today. What is the idea of these services? It's similar to what maybe the rest of the world might do with like REST APIs, but as opposed to using the HTTP protocol, we're using our SQL engine. Because then not only can we access the data, we can then use the power of the SQL engine to search, format, transform the data before we get it back to the caller. And we have services for virtually anything you want to access on the box. User profile, data queues, data areas. You want to IFS, read from IFS. The list is long and distinguished. Being able to use SQL to solve virtually any problem, both from an application development perspective, as well as a systems management perspective. Our new web interface that we built a couple years ago now, Navigator, it's using these services on the back end to get all of the data that is shown on the thing. Yeah. You and the green screen over there, stop it. Trying to move to modern IDEs for doing development. We have a great tool with our VS Code support, Code for I. We've got a new database component that's part of that. Because as developers, you need to write SQL. Well, let's have one tool. You can write your SQL, test your SQL right into your VS Code windows today. All right, we also have REST API engines built into the operating system. You own them. So if you wanted to create REST APIs, you could do that today. Tools are already built in, ready to go. If you want to learn more about these SQL services, my buddy and I, Scott Forsey, he's an architect for database. Back a few years ago, somebody said, you guys should write a blog entry. Both of us went, that's boring. So we created a video blog. People are always saying, we need more video content. So we actually have a video blog that's hosted by our friends out at Common. I think we have like, we're up to nearly 80 entries that we've created now. And the whole goal is threefold. Teach you how to use SQL, how to solve problems with SQL services, and make fun of each other. So we try to have some fun while we're doing it, but we also give you all the SQL that we show and demo in here. We give you access to it, so you can go take and leverage it for your own evil schemes. Or good schemes, we don't judge. But I encourage you, if you can't sleep at night, try some of these. I touched on security, and I want to talk about one slide. I have a white paper that came out about 8 months ago, maybe a year ago at the most now, that talks about what IBM is doing to improve our security posture. That's good. That's only part of the conversation. What do you need to do to take advantage of that? If you need your systems, your businesses to truly be secure, you need to do your part. So this paper looks at this concept of dual responsibility for security. So we've done some of the stuff that you can do. It gives you some resources to help you change and improve the security posture of your systems in your businesses. Right. We also have guided tours every Wednesday, or nearly every Wednesday. We actually have a worldwide webcast that we put on. And we talk about different topics. Some of the ones that came out recently, we did some stuff on next-gen apps. We've done some stuff on subscription. We've had a few on AI recently. So every Wednesday we have an opportunity for you to continue to learn about what the heck is going on IBM. So we get speakers that come in on a weekly basis. And that link is live. You can go click on it or just go search for for guided tours for IBM. YouTube can join them. And they're recorded. So if you can't make it on Wednesday mornings, no worries. They're all recorded, you can go watch them whenever you feel like it.